They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back, but that's not true. Not when it comes from the people you loved the most. It doesn't stab, it sinks. Slowly, quietly, like stepping into freezing water and realizing you're already waist deep before you feel the cold. My name's Daniel Kessler. I'm 42, Navy vet. 10 years in the engine room of a floating city that never slept, USS George Washington. I've seen war zones and oil leaks, power failures at sea, and fire drills that weren't drills. I've heard the silence of a steel corridor after a man didn't make it. I thought I'd left all that behind when I came home. I thought the worst parts of my life were over. I thought home meant peace. But peace doesn't come from where you are. It comes from who's beside you. And Mara, for the longest time, she was that peace. We met just after my discharge. She was teaching community college, literature of all things. I didn't get half the poems she loved, but I liked the way she read them out loud, like words had weight. She said I was too quiet for a man with such loud eyes, whatever that meant. She made me feel seen, and I didn't realize how badly I needed that. We married fast, rented a place in Prescott, later bought a small house on the edge of town. 1 story, wide porch, wind chimes she insisted on even though I hated the sound. We made it ours. The early years were good. She loved gardening. I started my own auto shop. Nothing fancy, oil changes, brakes, tired people with tired cars. But it kept me grounded. No alarms, no uniforms, no ranks, just hands and tools and engines that didn't lie. Mara would stop by sometimes for lunch, sit on the workbench and talk about her students. She always smelled like books and coffee. I remember thinking once, this is it. This is the dream. Then the college cut funding. Her department got slashed. She was devastated, like she lost a limb. Said she didn't know who she was without teaching. I told her we'd be okay, that she didn't have to prove anything to anyone. But something changed after that. She grew restless, started staying up late, watching old shows, scrolling for hours. Said she felt numb, disconnected. I tried to help, suggested she volunteer, pick up part-time work, but she kept drifting further inward, like someone swimming away from shore without even realizing it. And then Chris called. Chris and I served together in Norfolk and later in Yokosuka. We shared a bunk room and damn near died together more than once. When his wife left him, apparently took the kids and the house, he was a mess. Said he didn't know where else to go. I didn't hesitate. Told him to come. Told him he'd have a roof here, food, whatever he needed. Told him we were family. When he showed up that night, backpack slung over one shoulder, looking older and thinner than I remembered, Mara was the first to hug him. She said she remembered the stories I told, that he was always welcome. And at first, it felt good, like old times. We'd sit out on the porch, beers in hand, reminiscing about stuff we both knew we'd never tell anyone else. Chris helped around the shop. Mara made bigger dinners. It was almost nice for a while. But I didn't see it first. The way her laugh changed around him, how she started talking more when he was in the room, dressing just a little different, drinking wine on nights she never used to. I chalked it up to relief. Maybe she was just glad to have someone new to talk to. Maybe I was being paranoid. I trusted them, both of them, like a fool trusts calm water. I had no idea how far gone things already were. At first, it was little things. Mara texting late into the night, her phone buzzing when I was asleep, quick glances at Chris that held too much meaning to be just friendship. I told myself it was harmless,
She needed a friend. Chris was a brother from another mother. They were just leaning on each other. I was just tired from work, from everything. I wasn't seeing clearly. But deep down, something gnawed at me. A small, persistent voice whispering that this wasn't right. Chris stayed longer than he said he would. Weeks turned into months, and the easy camaraderie I once enjoyed with him became strained. I noticed Mara's door would close quietly at odd hours. Sometimes I'd catch the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air. I asked her once, "Is he staying over?" She said, "Just sometimes, for company." I wanted to believe her. One night, I came home early from the shop, hoping to surprise Mara with dinner. The house was darker than usual. Voices whispered behind the closed bedroom door. I froze, heart hammering. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. Soft laughter, the brush of skin against skin. I heard my name, but it wasn't her voice saying it. It was Chris's. The realization hit me like a punch. The two people I trusted most were betraying me under my own roof. I backed away, tears burning my eyes, feeling like a ghost in my own home. I spent the night in the garage, leaning against my truck, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The war taught me how to survive bullets and bombs, but it didn't prepare me for this kind of pain. The kind that seeps in slowly, breaking you from the inside out. Days passed, but I couldn't confront them. I wasn't ready. I kept hoping it was a mistake, something I misunderstood. But then, while cleaning the garage, I found an old tablet Mara had forgotten. Curiosity mixed with dread as I turned it on and saw a folder named Memories. Inside were photos, too many photos, of Mara and Chris, laughing, holding hands, kissing, intimate moments captured and saved like trophies. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was documented proof. My world shattered piece by piece. The house that was once my sanctuary became a prison of silence and lies. I watched them act normal, pretending everything was fine. Mara still made coffee in the mornings, still smiled when she thought I wasn't watching. Chris still fixed my car, still laughed at my bad jokes. But the truth hung between us, heavy and suffocating. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I asked Mara to talk. She looked at me with tired eyes and didn't deny a thing. Said she was lost, confused, and that Chris made her feel alive again. She apologized, but it felt empty, rehearsed. I wanted to scream, to break everything around me, but I just sat there, broken and silent. I realized then the war was never really over. It had followed me home, disguised in betrayal and broken trust. And I was left to pick up the pieces.
The days after that conversation were a blur of silence and suspicion. I barely ate. My hands trembled when I worked on cars. Sleep fled me, replaced by a restless vigil in the dark. But the worst was yet to come. A secret that Mara and Chris had been hiding even from each other. A secret that turned betrayal into something darker, more tangled. One evening, while sorting through some paperwork in the home office, I found a small, locked box tucked beneath a pile of bills. It wasn't much to look at, just a plain wooden box, the kind people use for keepsakes. But inside, I discovered letters and notes, some addressed to Mara, others to Chris, but all signed with the same initials, S.T. Confused and desperate for answers, I started digging through emails and messages on Mara's old laptop, a relic she'd forgotten about. Buried deep in the folders, I found encrypted chats and coded language between Mara and S.T., someone I'd never heard of. The messages were intimate, but also laced with secrecy and fear. It seemed S.T. wasn't just a name, it was a key to a hidden part of Mara's life. My mind raced as I connected dots I hadn't seen before. Mara had been living a double life, not just with Chris, but with someone else entirely.
Someone shadowy, someone from her past, someone who held sway over her in ways I couldn't understand. The most chilling discovery was a voicemail from Mara to ST, recorded on a trembling night. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. Chris doesn't suspect, but Daniel is close. If this gets out, I'm done." Her voice cracked, raw with exhaustion and fear. I felt like I was drowning in a storm I couldn't control. My wife, my best friend, and this unknown person, all weaving a web I was trapped in. The man I trusted most was a stranger in my own home, and the woman I loved was slipping away into darkness I couldn't follow. That night, I sat in the empty living room, the cold seeping into my bones. I realized that some battles aren't fought with guns or tactics. Some wars are silent, fought behind closed doors with secrets and lies. And this was mine to fight or lose.
I knew I couldn't keep living trapped in that haze of doubt and betrayal. Every day the silence between us grew heavier, like a thick fog suffocating whatever hope was left. The secrets Mara carried were poison, seeping slowly into every corner of my life, twisting memories and feelings until I hardly recognized myself. One night, after Chris had finally left the house, I found Mara sitting alone on the porch, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the empty darkness ahead. Her face was pale, almost ghost-like, and I could see the exhaustion carved deep into her features. She looked like a woman who had been carrying the weight of the world on her back, and it was crushing her. I didn't hesitate. The words that had been building inside me for weeks came rushing out like a dam breaking. I laid everything bare. The photos I'd found hidden away, the text messages full of lies and half-truths, the locked box with its haunting secrets, and the voicemail that revealed a truth darker than I could have imagined. I told her I knew about Chris, about ST, about every shadow she'd tried to hide from me. I braced myself for anger, for denials, for tears, anything but the cold resignation that met me. She looked at me with eyes that no longer seemed to hold the woman I once knew. There was no fight left in her, just a quiet surrender. "Daniel, I never wanted you to find out this way, but you needed to know. I was drowning. I didn't know how to ask for help." Her confession spilled out slowly, like she was afraid to say it all at once, afraid of breaking even more. She told me about ST, a ghost from her past, someone who had manipulated and trapped her in ways she thought she had escaped, but who still haunted her with threats and demands through secret messages. Chris had started as her refuge, her friend who listened, but their relationship had twisted into something more complicated, more tangled than she ever expected. She didn't intend to hurt me, she just lost herself in the chaos. I listened, torn apart by a storm of emotion swirling inside me. Rage at the betrayal, pity for her pain, confusion about what was real and what had been a lie. The woman I loved was broken in ways I had never seen, scarred not by war, but by battles I wasn't prepared for. When I asked if she still loved me, if she wanted to fight for what we had, she hesitated, swallowing hard before whispering, "I don't know if I can." Those words echoed in the night like a death knell for everything I had hoped for. That night, silence stretched between us like an endless chasm, deep and unyielding. I realized love is never enough to fix every wound, especially the ones that cut beneath the surface and leave scars no one else can see. Sometimes love is only the beginning, the hardest, most painful beginning of a fight that might never end. I left her sitting on the porch and walked back inside, my heart heavy but strangely clear. This was no longer just about betrayal. It was about survival, hers, mine, and whatever fragile pieces of us might still be left to rebuild or let go. The truth had finally come out, but the question now was what would come next. The morning after that night felt like stepping into a world I no longer recognized. The house was quieter, emptier,
like it had already started to forget us. Mara was gone when I woke up. No note, no goodbye, just silence. The bed beside me was cold, untouched. The absence screamed louder than any argument ever could. I reached out instinctively, expecting to find her there, but my hand met only the cool sheets and a hollow space where love used to live. I didn't chase her. Part of me wanted to scream, to beg, to demand answers, to pull her back and fix what was broken. But another part, the part that had been hardened by war, the part that knew when to fight and when to fall back, understood that some battles aren't meant to be won by force. Sometimes, survival means walking away with your head held high, even if your heart is shattered. The days blurred into weeks. I moved through them like a shadow, haunted by memories that cut like knives. Every place held echoes. The empty porch where she used to sit, the kitchen where I'd make her coffee, the hallway where silence now ruled. But I refused to let despair consume me. Instead, I found refuge in routine, waking early, working hard, and letting the small, tangible things tether me to reality. The rough grip of my worn leather gloves, the bitter taste of morning coffee, the cold metal of my truck's steering wheel, these became my anchors. Healing didn't come fast. It didn't come clean. It was a slow, jagged road filled with setbacks and sleepless nights. Sometimes, when the world was quiet and my thoughts loud, the pain felt fresh and unbearable, like I'd been stabbed anew. But with every dawn, I grew a little stronger. Not because I forgot her or the betrayal, but because I accepted that these scars were now part of me. I realized that surviving isn't about forgetting or pretending. It's about carrying your wounds with quiet dignity. It's about showing up day after day, even when the weight feels too heavy to bear. It's about learning to live again in a world that no longer feels safe, finding fragments of peace in moments of solitude. I'm not the man I was before. That man died in the shadows of betrayal and loss. But I'm still here, still standing, still fighting, not for love that was lost, but for the life that remains. I've learned that sometimes the greatest victory is simply surviving the storm and refusing to be broken by it. The war outside was over. The war inside was just beginning. But this time, I was ready. Ready to face the silence. Ready to live with the wounds. And maybe someday, ready to find peace again.